I'm Elizabeth Rose, a creator and neurodivergent enabler, a maker of movement and visuals with an interest in people's core truths and finding unique ways to share our stories through various artistic mediums. This series of short films takes a 360 dive into the raw and expressive process of developing a new live performance. From costume design, choreography, research, and discovering new technologies, this all happened during my latest commission, Boundless Body. I flew from Australia in November 2024 to London during a 2-week development process, taking my 1-year-old son along for the ride. Within the 2 weeks of making this work, Christopher Thomas captured a rare and vulnerable insight into the making process, pulling back the curtain on what is often a solitude experience. Boundless Body premiered as the penultimate performance, closing the Digital Body Festival 2024. I was first diagnosed in primary school. They thought that I was definitely dyslexic. I was very, very behind my class, but I was always quite quiet and I was very good at blending in. Just kind of like not being too noisy and not being too quiet to make alarm bells go. I was very good at copying and I knew when to go to the toilet. In spelling tests and in math tests, like I knew that could be a reason to be like, oh yeah, it's because I went to the toilet that my marks are so bad. So I found like ways to go undetected for a really long time. And then it got to a point where we were doing our SATs tests and then my marks were just like reception age. And that's when things started to click for the headmaster. And I spent a lot of time in the headmaster's office outside of my class. And because they didn't have the support workers to work with me, they were getting him to work with me. But he wasn't able to because he's the headmaster of a school and he's got other things to do. Anyway, it got to a point where I was really, really far behind. The school wouldn't do a test, and I think it's still quite like that because it's quite expensive. It's really hard to get an actual diagnosis. So my mum changed me schools and I got a test there and it came back ADD, which now isn't a terminology anymore, it's ADHD. But they used to give girls ADD and boys ADHD because of the hyperness came often in boys, physically like running around. But for girls, often they would try and hold it in. So like they'd fidget and hyper-focus on things, which is something that I do. So I didn't explore that even probably the last 3 years. I've actually really looked into my ADHD because it was very much kind of just pushed to the side and dyslexia was the focus. But actually ADHD probably impacts me more than my dyslexia because once I've got something in my head, I cannot stop. I need to do this to get my head clear of, just like, so I can get the full picture and I can share it with you. But I think I'm going to struggle to be present if I don't get that done, if that's okay. Yeah. I'll try and do this as quick as possible. Like, it's actually painful to be pulled out of something that I need to do, even if it's the order of things that I do things in the morning. I just have to do things in a certain way and I really can struggle with like control. So that's definitely something that I recognize more now. And I think some of the achievements that I have achieved over the years is testament to that hyper-focus. In lockdown I was running 2 businesses at the same time with 2 teams of people and doing at points like 10, 20 projects like simultaneously with really small teams. And that's because I was hyper-focused. But then you have burnout, and then that's when I've had to rein things in and really look at how can I manage this in a way that works for me and my family. It's genetic, so it's highly likely. And I now have the tools to be able to support him in a way that, you know, no fault of my mum or dad, there just wasn't the support there that they needed to facilitate a space for me. So now I can do that and make sure that he goes to the right schools and, you know, has the right kind of curriculum for the way that his mind works. And I'll be very sensitive to that. But I think when it comes to living in a neurotypical world as someone who's neurodivergent, often I can feel panic going to new spaces and I can get very anxious, and often that shows with like me kind of fiddling with my hands or my feet, or, you know, just trying to control things maybe a little bit too much. Yeah, and looking up. Like, I constantly try and find blank spaces so that I can give my mind a space to breathe, because I'm constantly taking in so much information, which is a great skill, but also can be very overwhelming. So there's things that I have to mask in order to keep moving forward. I trained in musical theatre, and I always felt like I was trying to fit into somebody else's body, and I always felt like I was trying to please somebody else. And in 2016, I did an improvisational course at the place, London Contemporary Dance School, and I had never done improvisation before in like that kind of contemporary world, and it blew my mind, and I cried because I had not known that world existed for so long, and I felt so at home in my body for the first time, and I promised myself that I would never try to please other people with my movement again and be apologetic about who I was and what my truth was, because it was so fucking beautiful to see everybody in that space be themselves. I ended up working with dancers over the age of 50 for a very long time, and they trained me in the importance of being yourself unapologetically, because they've got restrictions in their bodies, they've got ailments in different ways, but that does not stop them in any way of just moving and being in their own body. Like, it's the most beautiful thing to have worked with them. And it was like that, they were the first steps back into dance for me, and it was so therapeutic. That was then really important for me to just continue, because I finally felt that dance enabled me to be seen in a place that I knew I loved, but I've really struggled with in so many ways when I was performing. I really struggled with the audition process and the demand and the fast pace. Like, I can pick up choreography, but the amount of work that it takes for me to do that and to feel comfortable is like insane. Like, the things that I would do, like the hours and hours of extra repetition that I would do compared with my peers was like crazy. But that was the only way that I could feel confident that I wouldn't have a blackout or I wouldn't like forget things. So yeah, I think like contemporary has definitely been like a lifesaver for me in so many ways. And yeah, just being able to create that space for the people now is really special. I had one lady in lockdown actually say that the workshops that we'd provided through Creative Dance London, she said if it wasn't for these, I don't think I'd still be here. And like having feedback like that, you're like, wow, like this actually really matters. And people need to be seen through their body, not just through their words.